After being kicked out of Niger 7 months ago, France is having a tough time getting its economy back on track to meet President Emmanuel Macron's promises of reducing the budget deficit. Meanwhile, Niger, a country in West Africa with no coastline, is looking set to grow its economy the fastest in 2024, despite facing big challenges, especially in its relationships with the West and other West African nations. The African Development Bank, AFDB, has singled out Niger as having the best chances for economic growth in 2024. This is pretty surprising considering Niger expelled French troops just 7 months ago. Even with recent problems like a coup and pulling out from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, along with facing economic penalties, Niger still believes it's on the right track economically. The AFDB's prediction shows that Niger is strong and has a lot of potential for growth, even though there are usually things that slow down an economy's progress. Niger leads the pack in Africa's fastest-growing economies for 2024 with a projected growth rate of 11.2%, followed by Senegal at 8.2%. Despite worries about political stability and good governance because of recent events, Niger's economy is still moving forward. A big change since Niger kicked out France is the price of uranium shooting up from 0.80 euros per kilogram to 200 euros per kilogram. When people looked more closely at the paperwork, they found out the old government of Niger agreed to a really high 5% fee on uranium sales, which seemed unfair. This matches up with what the late leader of Wagner PNC, Prigozhin, said, that French companies were selling uranium to Niger for $1.02 per kilogram, but only giving back $0.11 to the country. The notable difference between what France pays for Niger's uranium and the small amount Niger receives raises serious questions about the fairness of past agreements regarding Niger's uranium reserves. At the same time, reports indicate that Canada's uranium is sold at a price of 200 euros per kilogram, emphasizing the stark contrast in treatment between Niger and other countries. The recent actions of the Nigerian junta draw parallels to those of Gaddafi in Libya. While the situation is complex, it's important to recognize Libya's journey from being one of the poorest nations in the world to becoming a regional economic success by 2011. In 2010, the United Nations Development Programme classified Libya as a highly developed country in the Middle East and North Africa. During this time, literacy rates soared from a fraction to an impressive 88.4%, and life expectancy increased significantly to 74.5 years. These achievements were the result of Libya's insistence on fair treatment rather than succumbing to exploitative practices by colonial corporations. These events demonstrate the potential for African nations to make significant progress when they assert their rights and demand fair treatment. Therefore, it's crucial to offer Niger unwavering encouragement and support. With this adjustment in pricing and newfound independence from relying on European or Western buyers for uranium sales, Niger is in a position to replicate the modernization seen in Libya within the Sahel region. In recent developments, Niger has taken a significant and assertive stance by expelling US troops, a move that comes on the heels of its earlier decision to oust French troops from its territory. This decision, made by Niger's military junta, involves the annulment of its military cooperation agreement with the United States, leading to the departure of 1,000 American Armed Forces personnel. This action has caused notable disruptions in US regional strategy and has sparked discussions and concerns both domestically and internationally. The decision to expel US troops followed deliberations with a delegation from Washington and General Michael Langley, the highest-ranking US commander for Africa. During these discussions, fears were expressed regarding potential agreements between Niger's military government and Iran, which could grant the latter access to Niger's significant uranium reserves. These concerns had been previously reported by the Wall Street Journal and have added complexity to the diplomatic landscape. Niger's choice to sever military ties with Western nations, particularly the United States, reflects a broader trend observed in the Sahel region, where countries are increasingly turning towards partnerships with Russia instead. This shift indicates evolving geopolitical dynamics and challenges traditional alliances in the region. The expulsion of US troops follows a similar move regarding French forces, which had been spearheading foreign counter-terrorism efforts against jihadist groups in West Africa for the past decade. However, France's influence in the region has faced recent setbacks. According to Colonel Amadou Abdrahman, Niger's military spokesperson, the presence of American forces in Niger is viewed as a violation of constitutional and democratic principles. He asserts that decisions regarding the deployment of foreign troops on Nigerian soil should have involved consultation with the sovereign people, particularly through their elected representatives. This underscores the importance of transparency and accountability in matters of national security and foreign relations. Currently, a significant number of American personnel are stationed in Niger, primarily at the $110 million US Air Base 201, located in the northern Sahara Desert region of the country. However, since the military coup in July 2023, which removed President Mohamed Bazoum and installed the junta, US troop activities in Niger have been greatly restricted. The majority of drone operations have been halted due to the political instability following the coup, rendering them inactive. The United States has been compelled to suspend all development aid and security operations in Niger. In a televised national address, a spokesperson remarked, regarding cooperation between the two nations, particularly military cooperation with the United States against terrorism, it's important to note that the American presence on the territory of the Republic of Niger is unlawful and violates all constitutional, national, and democratic regulations. These regulations stipulate that the sovereign people, especially through their elected representatives, should have been consulted before the installation of a foreign army on national soil. This agreement is not only fundamentally unjust in its essence, but also fails to meet the aspirations and interests of the Nigerian people for several objective reasons. Firstly, it obliges Niger to cover expenses related to taxes on American military equipment, which the US should rightfully pay, costing Nigerian taxpayers billions of CFA francs. Subsequently, Nigerian authorities with relevant jurisdiction lack information regarding the military operations conducted from American bases within Niger and are unaware of both civilian and military personnel, as well as American equipment deployed on Nigerian territory. Additionally, the United States Army is not obliged, as per the agreement, to respond to Nigerian requests for assistance against terrorist groups that target Nigerian defense and security forces and harm hardworking civilians. Furthermore, since July 26, 2023, and the establishment of the National Council for the Protection of the Fatherland, the American government unilaterally and abruptly decided to suspend military cooperation, violating the agreement imposed on the Nigerian people by invoking Article 7008 of the Consolidated Appropriation Act without fulfilling its logical conclusion, which would entail withdrawing its soldiers from Nigerian soil. Moreover, the Nigerian government has observed unauthorized overflight activities by American aircraft over its territory for several weeks, casting doubt on the sincerity of their partnership and the necessity of maintaining the military cooperation agreement imposed verbally upon the people. Considering the aforementioned circumstances and taking into account the aspirations and interests of its citizens, the government of Niger responsibly decides to immediately denounce the agreement concerning the status of United States military personnel and civilians of the United States Department of Defense within Nigerian territory. A diplomatic letter will be dispatched to the American side, drafted on March 16, 2024. In conclusion, we welcome your thoughts and opinions on the matter discussed. Your feedback is valuable to us, and we invite you to subscribe to our channel and engage with our other content.